of you know who this guy is? I know. It's been a while since Game of Thrones has been on, and I miss it a lot. But I couldn't help talking about it here. So for those of you who don't watch Game of Thrones, watch it. But I will give you a little bit of insight here. So this is Ramsay Bolton. This is like the classic bad guy. You know, this is the guy who is the killer. He is out for blood. Like, he enjoys killing off family members for power in the most sadistic and sick ways. And he's definitely out for blood. So I only bring him up as sort of an extreme character in the narrative of fundraising. And I'm going to talk about my fundraising experiences as the CEO of Chewse. We've raised $15 million to date, but it has been through a lot of struggle. So a lot of the discussion is about the greatness of, you know, raising a ton of money, but we never talk about the hardship. And I think part of the hardship that I've struggled with as a female founder has been, how do I do it authentically? How do I do it not being out for blood? So the first place that I'll start is talking about one of the financings we had, where I was speaking to an investor, and that investor was basically at the last stages of doing his diligence on us. And he calls me up the day that he's supposed to come on site to talk to our team. And he says, I've spoken to your customers, and they say that what Chewse is doing is one of the best things that's ever happened to them at work. And unfortunately, we can't invest. And I'm on the other end, and I say, what do you mean you can't invest? You were supposed to meet the team today. And he goes, well, this is a really hard industry. And really, you know, you're not out for blood. And that's the problem. We just don't have enough conviction because you're not out for blood. And so I hung up the phone, and I pretty much sat on the floor and I cried for the rest of the day. And I bawled my eyes out, and then I asked myself some serious questions about what am I doing in tech? Why am I bothering to raise money when I am not out for blood, when I'm not like Travis from Uber? And so we ended the conversation, and the next day I kind of came to and realized, you know what? He's so right. I am so not out for blood. And I sent him this email. And I basically told him that the reason that our customers love us so much, and the reason that we are going to win, is because of love, not because of blood. And I brought this back to the team, and we were probably within 3 months of insolvency. And I brought it back to the team, and I said, listen, I never realized this, but really, I'm out for love, you know? We're gonna build a great love company. And my co-founder looks at me and goes, have you looked at our logo recently? And that's our logo. And I was like, oh, we have a heart in our logo. How did I never really see this? I almost wasn't seeing, and I didn't quite know. And so the question that I wanna present today is this concept of sort of feminine capitalism. And it's one that I've grappled with a lot. So in brief, what Chewse does is we feed offices their meals, but we do it in a way that brings a culture experience. And so we partner with local restaurants, and we serve up culture. We do it in San Francisco and Los Angeles. And I've been building the company for about 8.5 years. And over that time, I've had to grapple with the questions of what am I as a leader versus anybody else as a leader. And so that's what brought me to the discussion today of feminine, masculine, and really the most important thing, which is authenticity. So I want to share with you some interesting insights here. So there's a social psychologist. His name is Greet Hofstede, and he basically takes a categorization of countries, and he looks at about 6 different traits. This one is the most interesting to me, masculinity versus femininity. So these are his definitions, okay, not mine. So masculine societies are characterized by high levels of competition. Money and things are important. Work prevails over family. Girls cry, boys don't. Boys fight, but girls don't. Admiration for the strong, and fathers deal with facts, mothers with feelings. I thought that was interesting. So on the feminine side, feminine societies tend to be characterized by being more cooperative, Quality of life and people are more important than money and things. Balance between family and work. Both boys and girls cry, but neither of them fight. There's sympathy for the weak, and both mothers and fathers, right? They grow up from being the boys and girls that can cry. They both deal with emotions. So, can you guess what the most feminine society in the world is, the most feminine country? Does anyone want to actually make a guess? Denmark? Close. So Sweden. Who said Sweden? Yeah, it's Sweden. So the Nordic countries tend to be much more feminine. All right, what's the most masculine country in the world? Germany's up there, but it's not quite there. Okay, Japan is number one. Japan is the most masculine. Who else falls on the masculine side? The US, though it's not the highest, but the US is there, the UK, Germany, Japan is number one. So, I mean, this is interesting context for us, right? Because the society, and the way that he determines this is he does surveys of everybody living in these countries and looks at what their values correspond to. So, US society tends to be more masculine. Now, what does that mean for us building companies in the US or in any of these more masculine societies? Okay, my favorite part. No support was found for a relationship between masculinity and GDP per capita. So this is the interesting part of it, and my whole part here, which is it is very easy to feel like you have to be one way in order to actually function and succeed in this capitalist framework. And I think the important thing is not that, you know, women are the best or men are the best. It's that like either way can work. You can build great businesses being either kind of person, and by the way, there are some feminine qualities that I associate myself with, and there are some masculine qualities I associate myself with. I don't think we're all purely one or the other. It's a scale. But the point here is you have to build the company the way that you are going to sustain within that company. Otherwise, you as a founder will not be able to carry the company through fruition or to a large success. And normally when founders leave their companies, you see companies fail more frequently. So what is the company, or if you're not building a company, what is the team that you want to build and the culture of that team? So that says, what does a feminine culture look like? So I'm going to use Chewse as a bit of a case study. Okay, again, on the gradient, I don't think we're the most feminine, but we're certainly not masculine, and I'll show you in a second why. Okay, so this is one of our rituals. It's called Attitudes of Gratitudes. We short it to Ats of Grats. And this is every Friday at 4:30 p.m. in all locations across the company. Everybody stops what they're doing. We pause for 5 minutes. We write gratitudes to somebody else on Post-its. And then we take 5 to 10 minutes to hand it to the person, thank them for something that they have done for us that week, and give each other a hug. The whole thing lasts like, oh, cool. It's seriously like the best benefit ever, and it's completely free. It's completely free. It just costs a little bit of time, but it's an amazing way to round out the end of your week. And there are ways that small teams, when we were a small team, we just did it as a circle, and we basically just went around and offered one gratitude to somebody in the circle. So there are lots of ways to adapt this kind of practice. Open salaries. So when I started, so by the way, I started this company when I was in college. So I never made offers to anybody, and I started to make offers and realized that women weren't negotiating as hard as men. So I was paying women less than men. And like, I had to look in the mirror and be like, oh my God, I am part of the problem. So the best way for me to make it fair was put it into a formula. So we have an open salary formula, and I write about this on First Round Review, and I break down the mechanics of the formula. So we don't have time to talk about it today. I'm happy to share any of that kind of mechanics of it with you. But the way that it works is everybody in the company can see everybody else's salaries, including mine, and it's done based off of your, built based on your role, but then calibrated based on your experience. Look, we don't have it perfect, but it's going a long way towards making people feel like they're being paid very fairly. And people are actually willing to take sort of our startup, below market salaries because they recognize that we're not going to pay you unfairly and pay someone else fairly. So this goes a long way towards, I think, creating a lot more balance and equity in the company. This is one of my favorites. This is the color check-in. So you all know that feeling when you go into a meeting and somebody is real grumpy, like they're real grumpy. And you end up leaving the meeting going, what did I do to that person? Did I offend them? And there's a meeting you're thinking of, right? Think of a few. And so instead of assuming that kind of ill intent, we ask each other the question when we start, and instead of how are you, which is the I'm fine answer, we ask what color are you? And the answer is by the stoplights. You are green, yellow, or red. And if you are green, you are high energy, and it can be personal or professional reasons. And you can say why or why not. You could just say the color, or you could say, look, I'm feeling a little yellow. I had a fight with my significant other last night, so my mind, I'm not fully present here. So it's not you, I just have that on my mind. Or I'm red, I don't think I'm gonna hit my sales quota, And then people can stop and be like, all right, let's work on that. So it gives space for the human to show up at work. That's the important part. And then you can choose to address that as a manager or not, depending on what you feel like is appropriate. Because again, as a manager, you're not a therapist. Most of our managers are not trained therapists. I don't know that any of them are. But to give space for someone to talk about how they're doing is very powerful. So I will leave you with one final story. So these are a few of our investors. We have some incredible investors. I will do a plug for Foundry Group. That's Brad Feld, Jason Mendelson, Seth Levine, Ryan McIntyre. These guys are our lead investors, and they're amazing. And the way that we pitched them was we were at the end of our Series A process. We were probably about 30 days at this point from insolvency. And we're all at a cafe eating lunch. The first 15 minutes, and we're with 3 of the partners, me and my co-founder. First 15 minutes, we talk about sex, drugs, and politics. And I was like, I love these guys. They're awesome. And then Brad asked me a question, and he says, tell me about the trajectory of your business and where you want it to go. By that point, I'd been through probably 30 pitches, all ended pretty much in rejection. And I hadn't told anybody about building a love company. I just assumed nobody would care. So I didn't want to talk about it. And then I thought, if this business shuts down, we run out of money, and I never told my story, I would be so upset with myself. And so I said, guys, we want to build a love company. We want to build a company where we really take care of the whole human, and we become a model for other people to build love companies or whatever kind of human-focused company they want. And if you don't want to be on board, I totally get it, but that's the dream. So we end the lunch. My co-founder and I scurry away to a cafe, another cafe, and just decompress. And I look at him and go, we are never raising money. It's never going to work. We're done. But that was fun. We tried. And then Jason calls me up, and he's like, where are you? Recovering from you. And he says, I'm going to come find you. I'm like, oy vey, all right. So he comes and he finds me, and he says to us, he says, you are our people, and we're going to do this deal. And I can't tell you what it means to really have somebody look at your vision and look at your culture and tell you you are going to build a really freaking big business. And those investors absolutely exist out there. We know who she is. So this is Khaleesi. This is the mother of dragons. And the thing that I've taken away from Game of Thrones, if I'm allowed to get philosophical about it, is that her people fight for her. They'll fight to the death for her because she granted them freedom and respect. But they're no less aggressive in fighting for her. And when I look at her and I look at Ramsay Bolton and I look at the kind of character and the kind of person that I want to be in the world, as a leader, as a partner, as a friend, as a daughter, I'd rather show up and show love to the people in my life and win from that place as opposed to winning from a place where I have to degrade the people that are around me. And that is a choice that I've made, and I've given up a lot to hold that position. And I've had investors shy away from it as we hold that position. But more and more, people are looking for those leaders that are authentic and that care. So I'm telling you that caring does pay off, and that pays off in a very capitalistic way. So thank you.